Being righteous is hard, but being wicked is even more difficult. Being unrighteous is even harder. Very few people in this society even care about being righteous. People are raised in different ways. People are raised to respect different things. Some people are raised to respect nothing. Some people only respect unrighteousness, wickedness, evil. But the majority of us in this particular space, the kingdom, the alpha sphere, we do want to live a life a certain way. We do want to be on a path to peace, prosperity, joy. We do want to wake up and do something we love every day. We do want to be blessed. That's what it is. See, a lot of people can get financial gifts. A lot of people can have money, but are they blessed? Do they have peace with their money? See, if you got money, you ain't got peace, then it ain't a blessing. Peace is the blessing. Money come with the peace. You can't get the money, then try to find the peace. You got to get the peace first. So otherwise, the money ain't gonna never bring you no peace. Ain't gonna be no peace attached to it. Matter of fact, it's gonna be a deterrent to peace. Resisting temptation. We're going to cover it first because it's one of the most difficult things to do, resisting temptation. Temptation comes in so many forms. It comes in a multitude of forms. And I guarantee you, if we all sat down and thought of a list, I guarantee you one more person could come in and add something none of us has covered because temptation comes in so many forms. Lust, greed, lasciviousness, drunkenness. It comes in so many different forms. The allure of certain things. The allure of them. But all of those temptations come because they're popular. They come because they're popular. They're the end thing. They may give you a temporary rush, but let me tell you something. Any good feeling that ends in a bad feeling is not a good feeling at all. Not a good feeling at all. If I'm going to Hollywood and you want to take a ride with me because you got an interview, but I drop you off at Skid Row instead, at the time of your interview, you might as well stay where you're at because Skid Row, where you going to be, you just missed that interview. How you going to get back? You ain't riding back with me. Any good feeling that ends with a bad feeling, listen, any good feeling that could possibly end with a bad feeling. So we're talking about the carnal temptation. It has too many potential to end up badly. So when you really think about it, carnality, carnal, intimate engagement is meant for a man and his wife. So anything outside of that is just temptation. That's all it is. So resisting temptation is hard, man. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, man, it's easy to resist temptation. It's not. Let me tell you something, man. It ain't a day that passes by that ain't some little bootay that lets me know if I want a test, I can have a test. But when I think about where I am in my life, man, and the direction I'm going, ain't nothing worth ruining that. The older your brain get, the better choices your wood make. Here's the thing, man. When you think about temptation and all of the good feeling and all of the, all of the sensations of it, then you think about giving in to temptation. And you think about all the possible things that can happen. You know how many men are in family court right now battling for custody of some children that he had because of his willingness to give in to temptation? You know how many men are in a rehab right now because of the willingness to give in to a temptation? You know how many men are in a penitentiary somewhere because their willingness to give in to a temptation? You know how many men are stuck in a relationship with a woman, man, they absolutely don't want to be around, but they stuck being around her all the time because of their willingness to give in to temptation. You know how many people are 400 pounds right now and they dealing with all type of illnesses and ailments, man, because they couldn't resist temptation. This is about resisting temptation. You can give in all you want to, but when you give in to temptation, it never ends well. Even if there are no really terrible things that happen, when you give in to a temptation, it affects you in a negative manner. Because you have to look at yourself and say, hey, I'm weak. Who wants to look at themselves in the mirror and say, you're weak? Right to your own face, you're weak. You're the reason we can't do the things we need to do because you're weak. You're the reason we can't rise to where we need to rise. You know how many people, man, are living right now, man, making plenty of money, man, living check to check, man, because they gamble all their money away all the time. I'm right in an area where there's nothing but casinos. I'm cool with it because I travel a lot. I'm always gone. But think about the people who don't. You know what I'm saying? It's super laid back, super quiet. I don't club, party, drink, do none of that anyway. Super quiet, super laid back, and I can just get up and go somewhere if I want to. But many people can't. So they spend their weekends going in, ruining themselves financially. This isn't a knock on anyone. This is about the temptation that people face. Now, you may say, well, it's their job to resist temptation. Yes, it is, man, but it takes a well-made-up mind and a well-made-up spirit to resist temptation. See, at some point, you can't always flee from temptation. Sometimes you got to look it right in the face and say, not me. You might get them, but you won't get me. You might have got me back then, but you won't get me now. So the main reason to resist temptation is the detriment of giving in to temptation, man. It is so detrimental to give in to temptation, brothers. I'm going to be honest with you, man. It is just a pure detriment. And it represents that someone else outside of you controls you. Anyone who could present you a temptation and you go for it, they control you because they know that they can present you with something that you can't resist. Your job as a man is to be able to stand up and look at something and resist it, no matter how tempting it is. That is how you protect yourself. If self-preservation is the number one law of the land, that's the number one law of self-preservation. Protecting yourself, resisting temptation. The second sign that being righteous is super hard, but being wicked is even harder. When you think about the consequences and repercussions now, the consequences and repercussions of doing the wrong thing are always bad. Now, avoiding wrath. So you can avoid wrath. Avoid wrath, man. Don't worry about it. Like don't let nobody, because the thing is, if you let somebody pull you into a wrathful state, then you're gonna be in a vengeful state. And you know what you're gonna do? Something that's gonna cause you some harm, something that's gonna cost you your life, something that's gonna cost you your freedom, something that's gonna cost you your wealth, something that's gonna cost you your health, something that might cost you yourself. Avoiding wrath is hard because people are always trying to push your buttons. But that's where the strength of connection with the Most High comes in, where people can't push your buttons. Avoid those people who push your buttons. Listen, man, if there's somebody in your life who pushes your buttons, they're pushing them intentionally. And anyone who's pushing your buttons intentionally works for the enemy of your success. Many people you think love you work for the enemy of your success. Many people you love work for the enemy of your success. Many people who've been around you for years work for the enemy of your success. Many people who only been around you for a few weeks or months or just a couple of years work for the enemy of your success. The majority of the people around you work for the enemy of your success because they don't work for your success. There's only two kinds of people in the world: those who work for your success and those who work for the enemy of your success. There's no other people. So if you don't avoid wrath, you end up embracing wrath, and that puts you into a state of vengeance. But vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Are you the Lord? No, you're not. So when you embrace wrath, it puts you in a position where you're gonna do something that's gonna be detrimental to your very life, man. You know how many men in the penitentiary right now because they gave in to wrath? You know how many women in the penitentiary right now because they gave in to wrath? You know how many people are laid in these cemeteries and graveyards because they gave in to wrath? You know how many people are injured and they'll never recover, man? They'll never live a normal life again because they gave in to wrath. You know how many people in debt because they gave in to wrath? You got to think about it, man. You cannot give in to anybody who can push you to wrath. Absolutely controls your energy. That means that before they even got you there, you didn't have the energy to push them off. You didn't have the enemy to cut them off. You didn't have the energy to let them go. You didn't have the energy to detach yourself from them. You cannot allow yourself to be driven to that, because once you start embracing wrath, once you embrace it one time, it becomes normal. Wrath will engulf you. Wrath is anger. Anger will engulf you. It's the most uncontrollable emotional state that you could be in. Anger is it. When you allow someone to bring you to wrath, see, anger is an emotion. Wrath is the emotional response to anger. Somebody's going to get hurt. Anytime there's some wrathful intent, somebody's going to get hurt. And it may be the person that's wrathful, but more times than not, it's somebody else. And so we live in a world where people try to do it. People feel like they've won if they can push you to wrath, man. People feel like they won. So you have to do two things. You have to avoid people who intentionally try to push you to wrath. And you also have to avoid environments that are full of wrath and rage. That's why when you get out of a certain environment, you never go back. Why? Why would you go back to an environment when you know what it's made of? Well, you know that the things that go on in that environment are a detriment to you because you're out of that environment. If you're in it, they're not a detriment to you. They're a part for the course. They're a part of making it in that environment. They're a part of respecting the environment.